Hi, and welcome back to another daily dose of anime recaps. In this episode, we'll be covering the manga Shadowless Night. There's a warning that when one enters the deep forest, they will be consumed by the shadow which moves when no one is watching. Within this forest lies a shadow that can imitate human behavior and even speak. Rosalin, a member of the White Night Chivalric Order, disappeared during a hunting competition after being attacked by an unexpected enemy. She was later found unconscious and badly injured under a cliff. When she finally regained consciousness a few days later, she was unable to speak properly and exhibited unusual behavior such as walking around barefoot in her pajamas and eating food off the floor. Her strange behavior raises doubts as to whether or not this person is truly Rosalin. Young Master Calix reaches his mansion asking about his sister. He finds out that she's in her room from his servants. Everyone looks worried, but they're glad that at least she's back. Outside her room, the doctor informs him that his sister's fever has gone down, and she does seem better now. However, he looks a bit flustered. Is something wrong with his sister? Calix can't take the suspense anymore, and he barges into her room to find her sitting on her bed. He asks her how she's feeling, but her sentences seem to be a bit weird. She is Rosalin of the Red Wheelbarrow, and she's the one who went missing, but her body was nowhere to be found. Of course, she couldn't be declared dead without a dead body. They had decided to host a hunting competition on the borders of Vista in the dry Thornbush County because of the wild animals and monsters that kept multiplying. The imperial family could not take a chance and had to show the citizens that the new empire was in good standing. This hunting competition was joined by countless royals and knights. However, an incident occurred on the 5th day of the hunting when the neighboring King Balta's assassin squad ambushed the powers of the empire. It was quite sneaky. Those assassins caused huge losses in life, and the people had to return. However, a few orders stayed back, including the White Night Chivalric Order. Soon enough, the news of the order going missing reached Calix, and he was too tense since their lieutenant was Rosalin, who was a skilled knight herself. They began looking for her everywhere when the search party discovered her below a cliff deep within the forest. It was 6 whole days after the battle, and she was seriously injured. Calix is shocked that his sister doesn't recognize him, but the doctor reassures him that her memory loss is temporary. He's quite relieved and makes the necessary preparations to stop any rumors from spreading about her current state. He has dinner with her when she clears 3 plates worth of food, and even snatches his favorite leg piece from his plate. Can his sister truly have Alzheimer's like the old folks have? Rosalin is still munching away, making Calix wonder if it's okay for her to eat this much meat already. Did she always enjoy eating meat like this? He suggests she eats slowly, since she might get indigestion. He starts recollecting his childhood memories, since it was his sister who taught him about table manners and etiquette, and now she's eating like a peasant. He introduces himself to her as her younger brother, who hasn't been able to visit her much because she's been busy with the Chivalric Order. He continues to tell her about her rank, but it doesn't look like she's listening. Their father is out on border protection duties, but he's sure that he's concerned about Rosalin. He looks even scarier now, and all the peasant children start crying at the sight of his face for some reason. Calix continues to joke that she can't have the win that was named after their father, since she's allergic to grapes. This makes him realize that his steak that she gobbled up had a wine reduction, and it freaks him out. What if she has an allergic reaction? It's a bit worrying that she seems completely normal. Maybe allergies get better with age? He orders the maid to prepare some allergy medication, just in case. Rosalin doesn't care and continues to drink the wine, while she hasn't touched the avocado salad that she used to love so much. While the maids gossip about how Lady Rosalin has finally learned how to eat with a fork and a knife, she steps out of her room and walks barefoot around the mansion. On the other hand, Calix gets a letter about the rumors going around regarding Rosalin that have turned her into a saint who walks barefoot and takes care of injured people. Well, the only truth here is that she's barefoot. Calix and Rosalin soon get invited by the Countess to lunch, so he goes to find his sister sitting at her usual place in the window, observing the maids. He's getting more suspicious, and even though she looks identical on the outside, the person inside has completely changed. She might not even be his older sister. Calix informs Rosalin that their mother has returned. They should all go have lunch together. He realizes that she's using the words taught to her right away when she repeats his sentence. He later instructs the maid to escort her to the waiting room when his sister is ready and goes on his way. He knows that their mother isn't aware that Rosalin was missing, and it might not be the best idea to reveal it to her immediately, as it might make her upset. He wants to make sure that no one has told the Countess about her sister's mental health, because she sure will be shocked after meeting her. Thankfully, she has regained her dining etiquette. Before going in to finally see their mother, he teaches Rosalin to reply to their mother with a yes or no if she asks her anything. They go in to see their delighted mother, who is seeing her children after months. She knows that Rosalin went missing and is worried more about her complexion than her inability to construct sentences. Calix swiftly tries to start lunch and is pleased that at least the timing of Rosalin's simple replies is accurate. Teaching her is proving to be worthwhile. His plans hit a rough patch when Rosalin picks up bread from the floor and she starts eating it, which shocks and disgusts her mother. Well, it's not entirely her fault since they didn't cover the part about food on the floor during their lessons. When her mother gets to know the whole truth, she hugs her daughter, extremely sad about her face and mind being less than perfect now. Their strange lunch comes to an end with their mother's health taking a dip and Calix escorting her back to her room. Back in his study, Calix's personal servant, Alter, brings him the information he wanted, as he wants to clear a few of his suspicions. This information about the shadow in the forest that moves when no one is looking, which mimics a human and can speak. Even though every region has different stories about ghosts, the confirmation of this shadow is a common factor. He has witnessed testimonies of people who had come across the shadow, which is very much like a person, as it is too horrific to look at. At this moment, Calix realizes something and draws his sword, moving towards his sister's room. He barges inside, asking her who she is, when his eyes land on a dead man's body, whose neck has been perfectly twisted by her. He doesn't believe that she's human and threatens to kill her if she doesn't reveal her true identity. This is when she decides to tell him that she is Rosalin's shadow. The shadow exists in the deep mountains, in an ancient forest where no human had stepped foot. Sometimes it takes the form of a bird, other times an insect or a large beast. Well, it's a monster after all, which has bright crimson eyes, stronger than any beast, and the most aggressive behavior. It always hides, which is why it cannot be called a demonic beast even after being made up of demonic energy. Don't be fooled. It can appear broken, but it only eats dead organisms and doesn't have to hunt at all. It doesn't have to work a long, hard day for food, since it can just wait for territorial fights to end to feed on the losing side. Count Dry Thornbush, who had become a count 2 years back, has also shown a great interest in catching the demonic beasts. Thanks to the countless hunters, the number of such beasts and animals dropped drastically, which is why that had been starved for a long time. No one likes to be hungry, so that waited for a very long time, from hours to years, while keeping itself hidden. It only reverts back to its original form when it eats, since it cannot eat anything alive. Well, its wait was finally over when a human fell off a cliff and was on the verge of dying. That was surely not a new situation for this shadow, but no one had eyes as pretty as Rosalin's. Rosalin's almost lifeless body looked at it without any fear. She didn't care if it was a demon, and had only one request. That shadow had never seen a human requesting it like that, and it was surely a first. A forbidden contract was formed between them and the forest, and currently Calix can't help but wonder how no one suspects his sister, including the maids that follow her around like lost puppies. As he threatens her life, Rosalin's shadow reveals that it's here to protect the master of White Night. This name had to appear now of all times, and he is aware that his sister wanted to protect this name despite a lot of opposition from their father. He tells her to go to her room, and it's been 2 weeks since then. Rosalin, or her shadow, no longer picks up food from the floor and is quick to learn languages. He decides to follow his sister's will until Sir Raymond of Huge Horned Goat arrives to meet his sister. Is he here to return to the Night Order? Calix runs towards his sister's room where Sir Raymond finds Rosalin quite upset with a man for touching her. Calix finds Sir Raymond deeply injured after Rosalin's attack, and there's a big bruise on his chest. Rosalin believes that he really is a bad one, but should she refer to other people this way? It turns out that Sir Raymond was so happy to see her that he made the mistake of going in for a hug. Of course, there was no inappropriate touching. Calix discovers that her loyal maids had given her the important lesson on bad touch and taught her to beat up any stranger who touches her. It is an important lesson, but maybe they should have told her to first verify the identity of the person? Calix has to take it upon himself to make her remember that she cannot beat up or kill anyone. After this little lesson, he proceeds to tell her that she's friends with Sir Raymond, who belongs to the White Night Order as well. He makes sure to add that she can beat up a person who approaches her with bloodlust and with a weapon. However, she should avoid doing that to innocent people, especially royalty. Sir Raymond wakes up soon enough, and Rosalin apologizes to him while she munches on some cookies. This is quite shocking for him, and he has to confirm from Calix if she truly is Rosalin. He hugs her again, but makes sure that she doesn't hit him again before doing so. They are having tea together, where Raymond tells her about the Black Moon, which is a demonic cult from Balta, who believe in the god of darkness and chaos, Creon Tadanion. These cultists want to kill the second prince of the empire, which is why he had to create the White Night Order to protect himself. It's a relief that she doesn't remember any of this, since most of their fellow knights died during the recent hunting competition, including the vice captain. Sir Nathan is the new vice captain, which makes Sir Raymond the new lieutenant of the vice captain, which is quite a fancy title. Rosalin's also getting a promotion to the squadron to protect the second prince directly, which reminds Calix that Rosalin's shadow told him about her wish of protecting the owner of the White Knight. Well, things do seem to be going well for once. However, this makes him wonder if the situation is this bad and they are promoting his sister who had already failed to protect the prince, while their family falls under the jurisdiction of the first prince. It's obvious that Sir Raymond needs to see her actually fight before finalizing the promotion, and asks her to draw her sword. Not only does she manage to lift her cute sword, she also draws Sir Raymond's heavy sword, which is unusual for her. Well, she has been working on her strength during her recovery, as Calix made sure that she tripled the amount of exercise, but it is just a cover-up. He shows her some moves, and tells her to remember whatever he shows her if she really wants to protect the owner of the White Knight. Sir Raymond's schedule is pretty busy, and he has to leave after an uneventful reunion with Rosalin. Thinking back to when he showed her some sword moves a while ago, he had to repeat these movements 100 times upon her request. He didn't even work this hard when he first learned how to wield a sword, and he's quite tired now. He asks Calix to fix her manner of speaking until the ordination, which is after 2 weeks, where she will be ordained by the second prince himself. Calix reassures him that Rosalin has an amazing memory and she won't cause problems for him. Meanwhile, she's practicing the moves Sir Raymond taught her outside, thinking about the actual Rosalin's last wish. At the royal palace of Ilabenia, 2 weeks later, Sir Raymond is glad to find Rosalin's manners have improved quite a bit. Calix's enormous efforts are truly showing now. She has even been moved to a larger room, and she's going to become an advanced knight. A promotion comes with its own perks, right? She changes into official-looking clothes, and they all go towards the captain's room to announce her return. Of course, Sir Raymond informs her that she can have 5 knights working for her when she's officially an advanced knight, and even gets to pick her favorite ones. First, she has to do something about her memory loss and come up with an excuse so people don't think that she's lost her mind. They reach Captain Stas's room, where Sir Raymond informs him about Rosalin's problematic memories, but at least she recalls her vows. Moreover, they have the doctor's note saying that her memories will soon return, which should put them in a good position. Captain Stas is silent for the most part, until he tells her to step out, asking Sir Raymond to stay for further reporting. Outside the door of his office, Rosalin can hear whispers about her and hostile glances. She figures that the White Night Order might not like her, since she's the eldest daughter of a family that is sworn to protect the first prince. She can hear the captain instructing Sir Raymond to help her out, which doesn't sound like bad news. They reach the ordination altar later in the day, when everyone is gossiping about her being a wicked human. who doesn't even have any special abilities. She's glad that Sir Raymond already warned her that he is the only friend she has here. At this time, her eyes fall on Prince Ricardus, the only prince with silver hair in the royal family, whom the real Rosalin wanted to protect. Calix had told her that the second prince's birth mother is Queen Malia, who was born to a Viscount family, but her mother was a commoner. This is why people find faults in his background, but are unable to say anything to his face. Of course, it's because he's a prince, but his extreme good looks are another reason for their silence. He's so beautiful that he's making Rosalin's heart race currently. Soon, it's time for Rosalin's ordination, and she steps forward to kneel at the altar. She recites her vows in front of the prince, after which he appoints her as an advanced rank knight. She goes back to her place, but can't forget how the prince's touch felt cold for some reason. Sir Raymond and Rosalin are at the advanced rank knight office later, where she's buried under paperwork. She isn't going to be the prince's bodyguard right after being appointed, but the load of paperwork is just too much. Sir Raymond tries to make her feel better by offering her some cookies, and suggests she should work on her swordsmanship in the training ground while he does his own work. She looks quite happy while biting her cookies and walking towards the ground until she comes across Nestor of the Sea Valley, who's quite jealous of her promotion, as they used to be basic knights together. He challenges her to a sword fight, hoping to show the captain that he's more worthy of a promotion than her. She accepts the challenge, as she remembers that Calix told her to show such people their place and fight them so they'll never dare to climb atop her head again. The other knights are aware of what he's trying to achieve, while he tells her that this is a competition of swordsmanship and hand-to-hand combat. The next fight begins, and she makes Nestor's sword fly away immediately. He's mad that she's being so cocky for managing to block his attack with luck, and asks to spar for a while longer. Of course, she makes his sword fly away once again, and is ready for the hand-to-hand combat that he promised. He thinks that this woman is surely crazy. His overconfidence is shattered when she punches him hard, forcing him to finally surrender. Sir Raymond gets a 100-volt shock when the vice captain tells him that he's deploying Rosalin as the second prince's guard. Turns out that Captain Strass had seen her training hard quite admirably, and is quite impressed at how she was hitting Nestor like he was a training dummy. Is she the same Rosalin who couldn't even hold a sword properly a few weeks ago? Sir Raymond is too curious, and he arrives at Rosalin's room to ask her what happened exactly. He gets another shock to see her carrying Nestor when she informs him about their little training, because of which the knight is passed out in her arms. After observing this, he's sure that guard duty is perfect for her, but makes sure to tell her that she can't hit anyone else after they've passed out from now on. He'll surely never mess with her again. The current emperor and empress of Ilabenia are distinctly related by blood, thanks to all the incestuous marriages, and it paid off with the birth of the first prince, Elpidio, who was supposed to be the crown prince. However, the emperor married someone new when he turned 11, and his new low-born wife brought the emperor's 2 illegitimate children with her. The little boy received the name Prince Ricardus, who became the second prince, whose holy powers surpassed those of the first prince. Therefore, he was put forward for the position of the crown prince. There has been unrest in the royal family since then, which led to constant assassination attempts. The family drama was endless, which even led to Prince Ricardus' sister's death, after which he entered the position of crown prince with more interest. The first prince decided to use the hunting competition to attempt another assassination, and even joined hands with the enemy, Balta. Prince Ricardus is in a meeting with the Earl of Sea Valley, where he's aware about his elder brother's stupid plans. He remembers the night of the attack where many of his knights died to protect him, while he had to run away. He's quite doubtful about her, since her family is loyal to Elpidio, but the vice captain's recommendation cannot surely be without good reason. Plus, it's known that she's different from other knights and is trustworthy, loyal, and kind. Prince Ricardus thinks about her eyes that have not changed, and there's a possibility of her getting information from Elpidio. He's ready to give it a go, and maybe he can use this chance to settle the tiresome relationship. Rosalin is thinking about visiting Nestor at the infirmary and bringing a gift along, but she only has a storybook and macaroons as potential gifts. Sir Raymond tells her that she can't gift him a ring as it's a sign of proposal, so this idea is clearly dropped, and she takes flowers and macaroons to Nestor. Nestor looks quite pleased with his gifts, until she talks about the bruises that she gave him in the first place. It really does hurt to be bruised, doesn't it? After this visit, Sir Raymond discloses that even though she didn't have any volunteers who wanted to join her as junior knights, her sparring with Nestor has created a lot of rumors. Now, she has 15 applications, and she has to select the ones she likes. He takes her to the potential volunteers, where she prefers to look at each knight's face instead of their written applications. Maybe she only wants good-looking people in her team? Well, she ends up selecting 2 knights, Leticia and Everhart. Everyone questions her decision since Everhart is a commoner who doesn't even have a last name. The rest of the knights are dismissed, and Sir Raymond tells the 2 selected ones that they will be relocated to a dorm closer to Rosalin's, where they are required to assist her in day-to-day activities until they're ready to become basic knights. After this, Rosalin visits Prince Ricardus and promises to protect him with her life. The prince inquires about her memory loss, and she only gives short replies to him. Thankfully, it doesn't look like he's paying too much attention to her. He looks forward to her performance, but is shocked when she stops him from sipping his tea. Is the prince going to take this as an insult? The prince does not appreciate her rude behavior, but Rosalin believes that there's something in his tea. His maid insists that she tasted it before giving it to him, and everyone is aware that he's immune to poison. However, Rosalin makes the prince believe that the maid might have just created a poison that is effective against his holy powers. While the maid's being dragged out, she shows her true colors and charges at the prince to kill him, but Rosalin manages to stop her attack with a single swing of her sword. He's impressed with her skills. Rosalin continues to beat her until the prince asks her to hand over the maid since she needs to be questioned. After all, her dead body would be useless. Rosalin leaves her alone, and Prince Ricardus asks her how she knew that she was an assassin. Does she have superpowers? She reveals that she smelled blood at the time, and she only pretended to drink the tea. Well, she clearly has a strong nose and great eyesight. The prince is curious to find out what's in the cup when Rosalin climbs on his desk and stops him from drinking the tea yet again. Her rude behavior amazes everyone until she bursts out that he is too stubborn and needs to give it to the temple to test it. A little flashback shows that Calix had shown her some weapons filled with demonic power, which were retrieved after the hunting competition. Additionally, demonic powers cannot be treated with holy powers either. In the present, Rosalin has revealed to the prince that the same demonic power poison has been used to poison his tea, since demonic and holy powers cannot interfere with one another. The prince goes into deep thought as the reputation of the empire will fall to the ground because of this poison, which even he cannot heal. He needs to keep a watch on the witch in the dungeon, who doesn't think it will take too long until the disgusting empire is destroyed. Leticia and Everhart are proud of Rosalin for getting selected as the prince's guard, and beating an assassin to a bloody pulp on her first day, no less. They discuss all the rumors going around the castle, including the one where she beat 5 assassins supposedly like she had 5 arms. Where do such rumors even come from? Rosalin arrives there at this point, and recalls that Sir Raymond informed her that all these junior knights are not that great in swordsmanship, which is why she just needs to lead them to improve on areas they lack in. This is why she has brought wooden swords to see how much these 2 need to improve. She hands them the swords, and they start showing off their skills, but it's obvious that their combat skills are like a baby deer's. Well, honestly, they are mostly just scared of getting beaten to a bloody pulp by her. If she leaves them like this, they'll surely end up dying somewhere in a corner. Telling them to stop, she reveals that their situation is quite serious in all areas. To make things better, she'll attack Leticia and Everhart now, which is a little terrifying to them. She can attack them anytime, anywhere, and they have to stay on high alert. Is this a murder warning? On the other hand, the prince is going down to the dungeons himself, as he doesn't want to wait for weeks until a servant can bring him information. He has an impatient personality. He reaches the solitary confinement room and addresses the witch, Caitlin, who's locked away as the slave of Creon Tidanian. This witch lacks manners and has a nasty habit with her hands when she tries to reach out for Prince Ricardus. He ignores her sarcastic remarks and hands her the tea with the poison in it. He is sure that she could detect even the smallest amount of demonic energy, since she's a demi-human herself. He's proven right when she identifies the demonic energy in the poison, and his business is done here. He turns to leave when Caitlin challenges him to recover from the darkness. She is too weird, even for a demon cultist, and the prince leaves before he goes crazy by talking to her any longer. Later in the night, he's on the balcony thinking about the legend of the Black Moon and the White Night. The legend says that the day the god of light, Idelabim's holy powers, reached peak strength, the god of darkness, Creon Tidanian, was driven out of the night. The White Night covered the world where all living things were revived, while Creon Tidanian hid in the moon, which was strained black, until Idelabim's White Night ended. The existence of the Night of Blessings is known by a few royal family members only, so he's a little worried about Caitlin knowing this information. This is where he gets startled by Rosalin, who is climbing his balcony. What's she even trying to do here? Rosalin tells Prince Ricardus that she's just trying to do her guarding here. But aren't her working hours from morning until evening? Of course, she is a workaholic who does not think that the assassins consider her working hours to complete their duties. This is when his eyes land on the assassin lying on the floor, and it looks like Rosalin has saved him once again. The guards take away the assassins while the prince offers her a drink. She looks unfazed after intruding on his privacy. He's more amazed when she toasts her, since it isn't proper, but it is more polite considering she has climbed on top of his desk before. He can see that the memory loss has changed her, but her gaze is the same as the day he told her to get out and stop trying to protect him before she went missing. He's surprised that she's still trying to protect him after he humiliated her. He eventually gets drunk on all the wine, and Rosalin tucks him in his bed, saying that she'll protect him, no matter what. On the other hand, Prince Elpidio is upset about the poison with demonic power, since it's a threat to him as well. He knows that Prince Hakabe of Balta had this card up his sleeve and was trying to stab him in the back. His servants suggest that he should make a trade with Balta to get the antidote of the poison for himself. In return, he can offer them the information they possess on the White Night. This idea seems logical enough, and Prince Elpidio prepares to end Ricardus' life once and for all, once day breaks. Prince Ricardus wakes up in the morning with a severe hangover, which is obvious since he and Rosalin finished a number of bottles last night. Since it isn't proper, he gets ready somehow and goes to meet the Emperor when he finds his brother Elpidio waiting there before him. He informs the Emperor about the poison, which has become quite a pain since too many territories have been harmed by the Black Moon's schemes. He doesn't want their holy powers to be questioned one day, as they are ineffective in front of the poison. The Emperor can only see one solution to this, which is to erase Balta from the map. However, it doesn't make sense to Ricardus for a holy empire to declare war first. This is when Elpidio gives his 2 cents worth, and suggests it would be more advantageous for them to wait and find out Balta's intentions to predict their future movements. Well, it looks like he's clearly planning something. Elpidio continues saying that they should dispatch a delegation with Prince Ricardus in the lead to remind Balta about the Empire's power. Ricardus can now see what his goal is, but the Emperor is still blindfolded and actually considers this idea as the best course of action. He does try to talk some sense into the Emperor, who silences him, saying that a mere poison is not going to affect him. He should stop worrying and go on with his delegation. Elpidio is obviously quite happy with this development, since Ricardus doesn't have a choice but to agree. He's aware that it might be a trap, but it's the Emperor himself who doesn't mind putting him in a dangerous situation. Remembering Rosalin's promise to protect him, he wonders if the promise was meaningful. It's hard enough for him trying to survive as it is. He declares that they will return to the Moonstone Palace when Everhart and Leticia discuss the delegation that is leaving for the Black Moon. Rosalin decides it's the best time for her to attack them like she promised, which they are able to block. She instructs them to devote themselves to training while she's gone with the prince, when their eyes land on a parade that's taking gold. A gold coin falls in front of her when Prince Diaz comes in, informing that these are just some gifts for the Prince of Balta. He looks glad to see her after a long while, though. Diaz is the 5th prince of the Empire, who wants a moment of Rosalin's time. They go into the gardens alone, while Rosalin wonders what kind of a relationship he had with the real Rosalin. Diaz is revealed that she is going with this delegation, and asks her to protect him there as well. This is quite a surprise, as she didn't know that he's going to Balta as well. It turns out that he has met Prince Hakabe a few times, and is acquainted with him. He continues to reveal that he tried to look for her in the barracks after she went missing. However, she was found on the cliff that was in the opposite direction. He's apologetic about not being able to find her, making her wonder if he really did have a close relationship with Rosalin. He's even blushing in front of her and is looking forward to seeing her in the delegation. After listening to him, it becomes clear that Rosalin was not present during or even before the battle that took place. She recalls healing this body at the time of their contract, as Rosalin was injured even before falling off the cliff. Maybe Rosalin had been attacked by a third party even before the assassination team had arrived? Holding her thoughts, she goes and hugs Calix, who looks proud that her social skills have improved. Of course, he can't know about her toasting the king or jumping on his desk. Calix is a little worried about her leaving for Balta, but tells her to assume that the entire kingdom of Balta is an enemy of the prince. He gives her quite a few instructions while she eats her pastries, until she moves towards the castle walls, saying that there's something behind them. She climbs over the wall and attacks Leticia and Everhart yet again. This confuses Calix, who thinks that she's attacking random people, just like he feared. Calix relaxes soon after, finding out that she's just training her junior knights, and listens to her telling him about the macaroons she ate and dueled a basic knight. They have tea together while she reveals that she beats faster every time she looks at the prince, which makes him spill his tea a bit. Maybe Calix needs training in his etiquette as well. Calix had originally come here to convince her not to go, but seeing her determination, he only asks her to return safely, because he'll be sure to prepare all the food in the world that she enjoys. A flashback scene shows the real Rosalin running in the night after the battle, who just wants to tell the prince about something she witnessed. This is when she reaches the cliff, as the people who have been following her have managed to catch up. She falls off the cliff when the shadow Rosalin is back in the present and haunted by these memories. All the people of the Empire cheer for the delegation that is leaving for Balta, while Elpidio mocks the peasants' ignorance. Moreover, he's a bit mad about how Ricardus looked so cocky while leaving, since he promised to find evidence behind the person responsible for that poison. He wants to see Ricardus's cold, dead corpse, as his safe return can prove to be disadvantageous for him. Ricardus's delegation has been on their journey for quite a few days now, and the good weather has been fortunate for them. It's quite suspicious that everything is going so smoothly, however. He expected there to be countless assassins and traps along the way, but things are quiet even after crossing the border of Balta. When has Elpidio been this cautious? It turns out that Rosalin has even discovered a stream for the knights to drink water from, which is unusual since she's a lady from a noble background and isn't supposed to be this street smart. She even brings 3 dead rabbits for Ricardus and hands them over to the prince like it's not a big deal. Sir Raymond is still not fully used to her rude behavior and apologizes to Ricardus on her behalf. But it looks like the prince doesn't mind that much, since it's not the first time she's acted strange. Ricardus doesn't want anyone to be bored, and suggests they should hold a hunting competition, but is sweet enough to get those rabbits prepared for dinner. This makes Rosalin really excited. Meanwhile, Rosalin can't think of anything beyond the memory, and wants to know what she exactly saw in the past that made people want to kill her. She sets up traps while hunting and comes across a deer after sensing demonic energy. The deer has a familiar demonic energy, which makes her think that it's the same species as her. This is when she hears a few knights approaching and tells the deer to run away before they end up hunting it. She has lived a long time, but this is the first time she's encountered her own species, which is weird. Back at the camp, everyone's drinking and toasting Rosalin, who has hunted an insanely huge warthog, while the other knights have caught nothing but frogs. They obviously think she's too awesome, and one of the knights prepares the meat for dinner, which Rosalin enjoys to the fullest. No one can appreciate good food like her. Ricardus watches how popular Rosalin is, and keeps recalling the events of the past with her like a 15-year-old boy. This is unfair, since she doesn't even seem bothered by their past. His eyes land on Diaz, who was watching Rosalin like a lovesick puppy. Rosalin is up on a tree again at night, when a chipmunk lands in front of her. She figures that the camp is far enough, so the chipmunk changes to an animal form, even though human muscles are quite sloppy. This new shadow likes animal forms as they are more convenient, while Rosalin is just amazed at how well she speaks. Speaking was not this easy for her in the start, was it? Well, she owes her manners to a granny she used to live with, who mistakenly thought she was her granddaughter. They do dislike humans by nature, so it might get uncomfortable living amongst them. Come to think of it, Rosalin's shadow also avoided humans when she lived in the forest, where she used to run away from humans while scarier creatures and beasts did not frighten her. The new shadow is mad at Rosalin for eating a human alive, as it is forbidden for them, and she now is going to die in this body. They aren't supposed to devour anything alive, but can consume food when they take on the shape of another life form, but that's just for nutrition. They have to devour a corpse in their original form on a regular basis in order to sustain the existence of the shadow. Rosalin cannot return to the life of a shadow anymore, but at least she knew it beforehand and made her own choice. Thinking about all the people she has met as Rosalin, maybe she doesn't want to go back to her old shadow life anyway. She later brings a huge eagle in front of Ricardus, but of course he doesn't know that it is her new shadow friend. It is because the shadow did not want to leave her alone, as she believes that Rosalin is too stupid and might need some help. She made a new friend. Good for her. She makes up the excuse that she knows the eagle, which makes Ricardus feel even more confused. Maybe he should give up on questioning Rosalin's antics now. The next morning, all the other knights are fascinated by the eagle, whose name is Macaroon, thanks to Rosalin's obsession with the dessert. They resume their journey, during which Macaroon keeps catching one fox after another, impressing the knights. They are about to reach their destination and make all their preparations to not let their guard down. The castle gates are open for them in the capital of Balta, and the delegation enters with their heads held high. The Prime Minister, Atilak, greets the delegation, and Ricardus steps down to meet him as well. He proceeds to lead him to the castle after all the formalities. Sir Raymond wonders where Macaroon the eagle is, but Rosalin can't obviously tell him that the eagle has turned into a little mouse now. The shadows realize that there is an unstable and violent aura in Balta, which might be coming from the guards. It's the same fragment that was in the tea, which makes them wonder if they've entered a very dangerous territory. Rosalin is given quite a nice room in the castle, where she discusses the strange group of soldiers they met who had demonic energy. Of course, they couldn't sense the same from the Prime Minister or other citizens. The captain soon summons all the guards and gives them a reality check that a battle is on the cards after arriving at Balta. He tells the guards that they will guard the princes and escape in case a battle does start in the castle. Rosalin proceeds towards the captain after remembering that Calix had told her to talk to trustworthy people if things get confusing for her in Balta. She thinks that the captain is trustworthy and reveals that there have been many eyes watching them from the main palace since they arrived. Those eyes are clearly bothering her, and she wants permission to kill them. At least, she has learned the manners of asking for permission before killing people. Macaroon finds humans so annoying because they are so considerate of everything. Why should they leave anything that bothers them alive? Her annoyance is justified as the captain declined her permission to kill anyone. Of course, Raymond explained that they're here as a peaceful delegation and can't give Balta any reason to start a war, which sounds fair enough. She's instructed to never touch them first, even if they're watching them. Macaroon can't just sit by and do nothing, so she decides to take a look at this suspicious aura herself. On the other hand, Ricardus is about to go for a bath when Rosalin barges into his room. She wants to do a quick inspection. Thankfully, she doesn't find any eyes in his room, which is a good thing. She begins complimenting the prince for his muscles and beautiful form, which makes the other guards think that she's lost her mind. Ricardus tells her to get out even though he can't stop blushing. Rosalin now wants to find Macaroon when she comes across countless cats that are hunting the mice. This palace is definitely not safe for her little friend, so she decides to get Macaroon back as soon as possible. During this time, she comes across Prince Hakabe, who compliments her 3 times in a span of just a few seconds. Is he really even a good person? She isn't sure because of the uneasy feeling inside of her, but she can't forget her manners, and so she greets him with respect. Hakabe wants to greet her as they do in Balta, and pecks her on the cheek, catching her off guard. Rosalin recalls Sir Raymond's lesson on things to do in Balta, and he clearly told her to return the favor if someone greets her by kissing her on the cheek. Does this mean she has to kiss him on the cheek as well? It's no use thinking about it, so she goes for it, and is about to kiss him when the fifth prince, Diaz, stops her quite suddenly. Diaz is really mad at Hakabe for making Rosalin uncomfortable like this, since he's never been greeted like this. Well, does he want a kiss as well? Rosalin turns back to go see Ricardus, but feels more potent demonic energy than the guards from earlier. Maybe it's coming from Prince Hakabe's servants? Who knows? Macaroon soon finds Rosalin and tells her that there's a suspiciously high amount of people who possess demonic energy here. There are too many people to count, obviously, and their demonic energy is completely brutal. Macaroon doesn't think that they were born with this energy, but how can mere humans have such power that's even larger than beasts? Rosalin climbs through Ricardus' window yet again and barges into his room. This doesn't even surprise the prince, who's used to this behavior by now. But she does get a lecture from the captain, who was having a meeting with the prince. She comes to the point and tells them about her meeting with Hakabe, and Ricardus is not happy about him hitting on his knight. He's even more angry at Hakabe for kissing her on the cheek, until Rosalin tells him that Diaz gave Hakabe a message from Prince Elpidio. Ricardus isn't surprised that Elpidio had a message, but he is a little intrigued that it happened on the first day of their arrival. Well, are they supposed to wait for a customary period to plot against him? Meanwhile, Rosalin wonders if Diaz is an enemy of Ricardus's. It seems probable at this point. It's a bit heartbreaking for her, since it makes him her enemy too. But he had a friendly touch and a kind voice, which seemed genuine. Thankfully, she listened to their whole conversation, where Diaz talks about the poison called Fragment, and tells Elpidio's message, which says that he expects some trust from Hakabe. Of course, the bottom line of the message was that he wants the antidote. However, according to Hakabe, the antidote to the poison is non-existent. The next morning, Rosalin tackles Ricardus to save him from a honeybee, which almost makes him want to fire her. But Rosalin can feel the demonic energy getting stronger. What's even happening in this palace? Ricardus wonders if Rosalin is so on guard because they're in a foreign country, or if she really sensed something threatening when she encountered Hakabe. She's not even ready to leave him at night, as he finds her watching over him when he wakes up in the middle of the night. He wants her to rest, but she doesn't want to go, and offers to rest under his bed, the side table, or on the couch. He just wants to throw her out of his room until she says that she's afraid that humans will die so easily. This changes his mind, and he gives her a place to sleep on his own bed. It's nice for him to hear her say nightly greetings to him, just like he used to hear when he was little with his sister. A shift in the scene shows Rosalin counting 900 dead knights, until a beautiful girl appears, correcting her figure to 932. The beautiful girl is Princess Celestia, who has a document in her hand that Ricardus will not approve. They are in his office after all, and can catch them at any moment. Celestia asks her about her experience in war, saying that she thinks people die too easily. Rosalin promises to protect her no matter what, which brings a smile to her face. Later, Ricardus says his goodbyes to his sister Celestia, as he has to leave, but asks her to depart the next day in his white carriage. Of course, he didn't know that the assassins were waiting to kill him in that white carriage, and killed his sister instead. Celestia dies in Rosalin's arms, whispering something about her brother. Rosalin wakes up in the morning and realizes this was a dream based on another one of Rosalin's memories. After a while, Ricardus reveals Hakabe's messages to his knights, which says that their delegation will be allowed to carry a weapon at all times. He thinks it's an attempt to stir something up, which is Hakabe's specialty after all. While the knights wonder if they are planning something for their conference, Ricardus does not wish to look foolish any longer. He orders everyone to be disarmed while entering the conference room, which confuses the hell out of the knights. However, he orders everyone to not behave rashly, especially Rosalin, and goes on to meet Hakabe, who chuckles at the disarmed knights. He believes that these guys will be harder to deal with Elpidio, who would have preferred to bring every weapon possible. He finally got a reality check that the two brothers are polar opposites. He puts on his sweet face and welcomes Ricardus by kissing him on the cheek. Everyone in the room looks astonished by this little act. Ricardus is definitely not used to Balta's way of greeting, but is glad that he didn't at least show up fully armed to this little display of affection. The two princes end up toasting to their growing faith and a stronger alliance. Rosalin stays by Ricardus' side, who wants her to eat and asks Sir Raymond to take her away and feed her. They are treating her like a spoiled child at this point. Nevertheless, Rosalin begins feasting and is actually enjoying it until Diaz arrives there and starts chatting up with Sir Raymond. They look quite friendly, and it turns out that they have been together since they were children. When Diaz goes to get more liquor, Rosalin asks Sir Raymond about his friendship with him, who was an enemy of Ricardus. Sir Raymond knows how to differentiate his business and personal matters, but hopes that he never has to take up arms against his childhood friend. He continues to tell her that Diaz is quite lonely, and narrates the story from when he was young. He used to live at the White Jade Castle when it burned down, when his younger brother and mother both died. Diaz saved himself by jumping out of the window, but had to be hospitalized for a few years. However, no one reached out to him when he was returned, and it was Elpidio who stepped in to take care of Diaz. He returns with the liquor at this moment, and they enjoy it together. Meanwhile, Ricardus is hiding in a corner as he just wants people to stay away from him. He looks tormented by all the attention he's receiving. He can't stay alone for long, and Princess Gange of Balta finds him, and she's been waiting for a chance to speak with him. Apparently, she has something to say that will be of interest to him, which has definitely caught Ricardus' attention. Before Prince Gange can say anything else, their conversation is interrupted and she has to leave. But before she goes, she tells him about a place far better to see the moon, where he can enjoy some alone time. On the other hand, Hakabe has found Rosalin with a mouthful of food and starts flirting with her yet again. He's even offering to gift her his nation's traditional garment. He finds her really likable and offers her to come to him if she ever leaves Ricardus. Fortunately for her, a servant interrupts them by telling Hakabe something about a temple, and he has to rush there. He wonders who told the prince about the temple while he's on his way. Ricardus has also reached the Temple of Balta and notices the statue of the sun that looks too dark to be considered the sun. He can't complete his thoughts, however, as Hakabe's arrival annoys him. Why don't these siblings leave him alone? Hakabe starts talking about the poison developed by the Black Moon, which means that he has chosen to pretend to be dumb about it. At this point, Ricardus realizes that it isn't the sun on the ceiling, but the Black Moon, which is the symbol of Creon Tidanion. Does this mean that the poison is called the Fragment because it has the fragment of the Black Moon? Hakabe is truly impressed by his skills of deduction. Well, he doesn't possess all these holy powers for nothing, right? The Night of the Blessing has come to a halt in the continent without anyone knowing the real reason. Thus, monsters and beasts have increased in number, and the miracle of God is desperately needed at this time. The White Knights of Blessings can become the support to all citizens, but they need someone with immense holy powers as well as someone capable of handling demonic energy to call it forth. Which is why Ricardus' new mission is to find a demonic human capable of handling immense demonic energy. Of course, it'll be very difficult to find them since they were forsaken by the Empire of Illibania and have been hiding and living in secrecy ever since. Ricardus can't go searching for them openly since it will be bad for his reputation, and Elpidio will obviously use it against him politically. This is when Rosalin arrives, formally requesting to meet Ricardus like a normal person for the first time. Of course, he's shocked to the extreme by this. She gives him the demonic energy in the form of a crystal, which shocks him even further. Where did she even find such a thing is the real question here. Of course, she can't tell them that Macaroon brought it to her, so she cooks up the story of finding it piled up deep within the palace. He doesn't mind her stealing it, as long as no one caught her in the act. It's obvious a fight is waiting to happen, and not even Ricardus can change the outcome. He's glad to have found the perfect bait to catch the biggest fish, which is why Rosalin is treated with a cookie and asked to keep her mouth shut about this. It's Ricardus' lucky day, since he's found the clue for the Night of Blessings and a crystal bearing demonic energy. This trip is turning out to be more fruitful than he originally thought. It's the perfect time for them to come home, and Hakabe comes to see them off. No one trusts him for obvious reasons. Therefore, Ricardus soon calls for a meeting with his knights. The captain shows him 2 places they could have concealed a large number of people, and considering Hakabe's personality, it's a high probability that he's plotting an ambush. There's no chance that they can avoid a battle now, and Ricardus is aware that they are at a loss in numbers and strength. It's been a long time since he's been forced into a corner to defend himself like this. On the other hand, Hakabe shows one of the little demonic energy crystals to a prisoner, Zanan, who accepts it. It looks like he is infusing it in him. He really wants to have Ricardus, since his holy powers could be useful to him, and he can't let such a good opportunity just pass him by. Zanan is enjoying the feeling of all the demonic energy, as it has given him an endless flow of power and enhanced physical capabilities. He's reborn, and his master, Hakabe, needs him to bring back what he desires. This is taking a really dark turn here. Zanan is waiting for the delegation to pass through the woods with his men, and his orders are clear: to capture Ricardus before the delegation crosses the border. He's ready to kill them if it seems like he'll lose. They spot Ricardus and his delegation when Rosalin starts feeling uneasy. Is it because this scenario reminds her of the memory of Celestia dying in her arms? The delegation is attacked soon enough, and the captain orders everyone to prepare for battle and protect the prince's carriage. Zanan and his men charge at the captain with incredible strength that amazes him, which makes him order his knights to execute their plan. Suddenly, the carriages start running away in opposite directions, making Zanan think that they're cowards. Well, isn't defending and evading the best tactic for humans? Zanan divides his party into groups and sends some of them to follow the carriages, and the rest will take care of the knights left behind. He finds the presence of one carriage suspicious when he spots Rosalin. It's more shocking that she manages to overthrow a member that's been strengthened by the fragment so easily. How can a girl even do this? Just as Rosalin thought, every opponent seems to possess the abnormally strong demonic energy. Strategically speaking, they're quite at a disadvantage. They must become stronger to endure this threat as well. This is why she uses the power of the beast, the strength of the most powerful thing she devoured, and kills one of the opponents in a single strike. Zanan knows that she's no ordinary knight, since she's dangerously powerful. He has to remember her, but first, he needs to confirm the identity of the person in the carriage that is left here. He's not amused after finding no one inside, however. He hasn't lost hope as they outnumber the knights, but ends up finding most of his party dead. He's clearly missing something here. Meanwhile, the rest of his men are following the other carriage, when Macaroon, who has turned back into an eagle, attacks them. Surely, they didn't see this one coming. Some of them even run away, when Macaroon picks up a sword and starts slashing them, but they soon catch up with the carriage and block its path. This game of tag is over, and they ask for the prince to be handed over. However, it's Diaz who steps off and is saved by the knights. This is when Zanan attacks a hooded figure from behind, who stops him and is revealed to be Ricardus himself. A flashback shows Ricardus being aware that Hakabe's side will not kill him in a rush, since he wants his holy powers. They won't make the mistake of using the fragment either, as it does not have a cure, so they should separate them into as many groups as possible. His plan has obviously worked in the present while he duels against Zanan, whose powers are extraordinary. He doesn't know how Hakabe used the fragment on their body, though. Did he plant it on their bodies? Rosalin soon gets rid of his opponent for him, when it's revealed that Ricardus put all of his knights under divine protection, so they're not so easily hurt. At least he's willing to risk his own life to protect his people. On the other hand, the group following Diaz lets him go as their target is Ricardus. They figure that they should just go back and track down the prince they want. However, some of them do remain to fight the rest of the knights. The knights fight their opponents with a lot of bravery, and they decide to move out before the rest of their opponents come back. They decide to go around the mountains as they are surrounded, when Ricardus is attacked once again, and Rosalin and Hale save him. When they go ahead, Rosalin touches the blood on her shoulder and notices a strange sensation. The captain is about to be killed by Hakabe's men, when a bear jumps out and attacks them. Why is a bear even here? It's only attacking the Black Moon men. Does this mean the beast is on their side? The knights knights finally have some room to breathe, while their opponents retreat as they do not want to fight this ferocious bear. The bear must also be thinking that these knights need a lot of help. One of the knights noticed that its fur is drenched in blood, which might mean that their enemies did something to incur its wrath. They do look like someone who would take away its food, but no one can be sure. On the other hand, Ricardus is leading the other group of knights and they are almost at their destination. Dame Hale is seriously injured and Rosalin has to call the prince for help. Ricardus observes her and notices black veins, which is a symptom of addiction to the fragment. The Black Moon group must have coated their daggers in the poison, but Ricardus tries to heal her anyway. Dame Hale does not want her prince to spend his energy on her and offers to walk in a different direction. Maybe she can confuse the enemies by doing this. Her devotion is unmatched when she asks Rosalin to protect the prince and walks away, leaving Rosalin feeling all kinds of emotions. The Black Moon men arrive at their previous location to find everyone gone. It's not their lucky day with the eagle and the bear and so many obstructions. It might be a sign for them to just give up. Of course, they aren't smart enough to run away and start looking for clues when their leader's eyes land on the red sparkly fragment in the hands of Zenon's dead body. The leader thinks that it's a disgrace to Hakabe, as he told Zenon to only take the fragment during an emergency. He's furious and wants the delegation to be tracked down and killed this time. Meanwhile, Ricardus and his group have covered a lot of distance and are finally resting. They can move again when it's light outside, when Rosalin offers her some jerky. It's so dark that he can't really see her until she shoves jerky in his mouth. He really can't make her learn some manners, can he? Additionally, he's feeling too burdened by the weight of his survival as they have sacrificed many lives this night. He is too lost in his thoughts that he doesn't realize that he fell asleep resting on Rosalin's lap and gets up quite suddenly. Ricardus is really blushing again and asks her if she managed to get some sleep. They move out and thankfully the day seems bright today, and Rosalin excuses herself to go and scout the area. She really wants to be alone and observes her wounds when she gets far enough away. Her recovery rate is way too slow, which might be the effect of the fragment. This makes her consider cutting off her limb before the poison spreads any further, but decides against doing so, since it'll prove to be more dangerous in the current situation. She needs her arms to fight in the battle, obviously. While looking for Macaroon, she ends up spotting another ambush and realizes that Ricardus is in danger. Rosalin arrives just in time to inform Ricardus that they're being followed, and tells him to leave first while she stays behind to distract them. Ricardus does not like the idea of her staying behind, so she has to reveal that she's already developed an addiction to the fragment, which is what their enemies are using when they find them. The prince is quite taken aback with this news, while his knights try to take him away. However, he can't stop looking at her and ends up kissing her forehead, asking her to come back to him. He really is warm, isn't he? Later, Macaroon drops a dagger in Rosalin's head while she keeps a watch out for the enemies. Without losing more time, she steps in front of them, who mock her for standing alone against them. The leader throws a lock of Dame Hell's hair in her hands, bragging about how he killed her. It is not wise to make her this angry, who promises them that she will not let them pass through alive. She transforms into her monster form and begins killing them all. The poison spreads faster since her movements have increased, so she wraps it up quickly. Their leader is the last one alive, and she asks him if there are more of their members coming from behind. He's too scared of her, as he knows that she can't be human with all this kind of power, and ends up telling her the exact number of the rest of his group. He falls to his knees, asking her if she's Creon Tidanian, but she doesn't have time to listen to this, and kills him with a single strike. Ricardus is not happy after running away. He might be feeling like a coward right now, but his life is too important to risk. He reaches the intercepting point with his knights, which makes him wonder how many people will survive this expedition. The tears in his eyes show that this night has taken its toll on him. Keeping his thoughts aside, he falls asleep but is soon woken up by someone caressing his hair. He finds Rosalin in front of him, but it might be a dream. He tells her that he's scared that she might die, asking that she come back to him or crawl back to him. It looks like he has a soft spot for her. His dream is interrupted by the shouts of his knights, telling him about the arrival of an injured Rosalin. He runs outside to see her in a terrible state, which can only mean that the fragment addiction has already spread too far. He hugs her, appreciating her good work of getting rid of the enemies that were following them. Ricardus later tries to cure her with his holy powers, but they seem to be ineffective. In the meantime, Sir Raymond can't stop crying about his favorite, Rosalin, who's fighting for her life at this point. Rosalin is in deep sleep at night, dreaming about some humans who want to kill the shadow of the forest because they think it kills humans. But that's not true. They don't kill anyone. They hide deep within the forest until everyone forgets about them. But someone doesn't want to hide and wants to kill everyone by becoming the monster they speak of. Rosalin opens her eyes and finds herself in a golden room. Where is this place? Macaroon flies up to her, cursing Rosalin for making her so worried. She also tells her that her silver-haired human, Ricardus, is not dead. She has the good news that she wanted. Macaroon also tells her that she went to help the rest of the knights just like she wished. Well, at least she's a great friend except for her foul language. The borders of the two empires are broken down to collect the bodies of the deceased knights, due to their cooperation of the king of Balta, Higsala Adan. Some knights are moving through the forest looking for the bodies and discuss that 38 knights are now dead out of the 105 that went with the delegation. However, they come across the dead bodies of the Shadow organization that Rosalin killed and are shocked that all of this torture was done by a single human girl. Back at the palace where Rosalin is staying, Cecil of the Dry Thorn Bush introduces herself to her sleeping beauty guest. Looks like Cecil knows Rosalin from before and is always entertained whenever she comes by. There are a lot of people in line waiting to talk to Rosalin, and there's a lot of nonsense going around about how she should be brought back to the capital and tortured. Why do they want to do that? Isn't she the hero who saved everyone? However, Cecil tells her not to worry about anything, as one is allowed to enter her territory without her permission, but she does have a doubt about Rosalin's identity. The two proceed to have their lunch together when Cecil tells her that Ricardus departed for the royal palace the previous day. She really shouldn't be worried about Ricardus when she's being grilled all over the empire. Cecil had seen the prince being overprotective about Rosalin, since he carried her to the room himself. This is too suspicious not to think about. Rosalin only looks concerned about not having eaten anything for the past 5 days while she was unconscious. Seeing all the delicious meat in front of her, Rosalin can't control herself and starts attacking all the food right away. While she eats, Cecil tells her about the rumor going around where people are whispering that she's a demonic human. This definitely makes her pause eating for a minute. On the other hand, Ricardus' trusted advisors don't want a demonic human like Rosalin at their side. They believe that they need to sort this issue out quickly. The advisors think that it's suspicious that she managed to ward off the Black Moon Men when she's just a woman. How amazingly misogynistic is this? Of course, they also think that the attack was plotted by her as well. Thankfully, Sir Raymond is not willing to allow such an opinion about her and vouches for Rosalin that she protected them with all of her extraordinary skill. Ricardus also steps in to say that she risked her own life to save his, and this presents the perfect opportunity for Elpidio to mock him for having a demonic human at his side. Ricardus gives it back to him, hinting towards all the things he found out during his trip, which makes his older brother shut up for once. Meanwhile, Rosalin lies through her teeth, telling Cecil that is not a demonic human, and she was only able to defeat the Black Moon people because they were weak. It sounds too good to be true, but she must be given some credit for coming up with this story. Cecil is happy to see Rosalin being so shameless, revealing that she's the only one receiving the most attention since the delegation came back. It's obvious because she's the suspiciously strong knight who overcame the addiction to the fragment, which there's no cure for. It turns out that Rosalin's father, Count Wheelbarrow, delivered a long explanation to the royal family, accepting her identity as a demonic human. At least she has the support of her and the Thornbush family. Hearing this, Rosalin can't deny it anymore and accepts being a demonic human. Cecil understands her need to hide the truth, but she calls her a trustworthy demonic human who's too loyal to Ricardus. However, she believes that someone is spreading the rumors about her on purpose, which makes her stop eating completely. Did she lose her appetite after hearing about such a serious situation? But it turns out that she's just too excited to see the macaroons, and she continues to eat like nothing's bothering her. On the other hand, Hakabe counts his own survivors as 8, while the White Knights have 38 casualties. It's quite an embarrassment for him, since his men greatly outnumbered the knights. He seems sad that the Thornbush and Red Wheelbarrow orders helped the delegation. Moreover, he believes that Rosalin died in the attack until his prime minister tells him that she faced off against more than 30 assassins by herself. Everyone is taking her too lightly. Hakabe laughs at this information until he hears the tale of one lone survivor who came back, saying that a monster attacked them. Hearing all this, Hakabe Aname comes to the conclusion that Rosalin is actually a shadow, since not even other demonic humans can take down their own kind this easily. He deeply regrets letting her go so easily and decides to not pursue Ricardus for some time. Now, he wants to go to the empire of Albania himself to find his Black Moon, Rosalin. Albania's current emperor, Reno, lacked support as a leader due to a misunderstanding with the nobles. Plus, he had the least amount of holy powers, which seemed to drag him down. He was so bitter that he even prohibited the mention of his son, Elpidio's outstanding holy powers when he was only 4 years old. Of course, Elpidio would have been supported by countless people to claim the throne if Ricardus had not appeared out of the blue. Reno has only been able to keep his throne because of the feud between the two princes, and has been titled as the worst and weakest emperor to date. However, now Ricardus has brought back a sparkling red crystal containing demonic power, which would help them to analyze the powers of their long-term enemy, the Black Moon. This is surely the most precious gift for the Emperor, who only wants to prove his power. When Cecil watches Ricardus leave her palace, she's aware that Elpidio won't be able to touch him for at least a while. Plus, it's good that he is indebted to her family now. She's sure to get a reward, but knows that Rosalin's father, Count Pertin, Red Wheelbarrow, will also receive something in return. Since Pertin comes to meet her as he is leaving for the capital with Ricardus, asking her to take good care of his daughter. Back to the present, she stops Rosalin from going to the royal palace, as she's supposed to be a patient. Ricardus has also asked her to protect Rosalin until she can be treated better, and Pertin does not want his daughter to be showcased everywhere either. To distract Rosalin from her foolish plan, Cecil takes her on a stroll in the small market outside the castle. Obviously, she likes this idea and goes to the market with Macaroon, who is back to being a mouse. It's the first time Rosalin has been to such a market and starts hearing whispers from people all around her who call her the demonic human. She can't even kill all these people, as Calix had told her not to kill unarmed people unless she wants to go to a scary place. Meanwhile, Calix has arrived at the Dry Thornbush Castle to find that his sister has gone off to market. This makes him really worried, as he knows that she will be far worse than anything he can imagine. Rosalin is enjoying herself at the market, eating all the delicious items available there. She wonders if she has to give the shopkeepers something in exchange for all the food, as Calix never taught her about these market dealings. Perhaps he should have told her about the concept of money. On the other hand, Calix is getting a slight migraine all of a sudden. This takes him back to the memory of his sister leaving home, after his father told him to not consider her as part of their family anymore. He's surprised that she's willing to leave the Red Wheelbarrow so easily, and he definitely does not like this second prince who has lured his kind and gentle sister. He let her go after crying a lot, but he couldn't stop himself from going to see her after her unconscious return. He rebels against his father, and he goes to the market to find his Rosalin again. The first thing he does is buy all the flowers from a little girl, asking her if she has seen Rosalin. He finds that she has been going around the market, taking food from all the stalls without paying. Now he realizes his mistake of not teaching her about finances, so he goes to all the shopkeepers and pays them for the food that she took. He also discovered that there has been a rumor going around about him, and he almost doesn't want to know what it is. Soon enough, he hears people talking, and it turns out that it's Rosalin who has been bragging about her brother all this time. He finds her soon enough and is glad that she has recovered from her injuries. The two siblings hug in the middle of the market, making everyone's hearts melt. Rosalin enjoys the beautiful flowers Calix bought, while he gives her a lecture about money and paying for stuff she buys. This is when she senses a demonic human who steals someone's wallet and runs away. They continue this conversation back in the castle, where Calix tells her about some demonic humans who become warriors and others who choose to walk the path of darkness using their physical advantages. Suddenly, he notices the mouse standing on her shoulder. She reveals that it's Macaroon, who is the same species as her. This is the perfect time for her to turn into a beautiful woman. She starts telling Calix that she can change depending on the situation, and she does not trust Calix at all, no matter how pretty he is. It looks like they will get along just fine. Meanwhile, a young Ricardus is traveling with his mother and siblings to the royal palace. His mother tells him that the place they are going to is cold, and everything will be hard, but he must be patient. He doesn't know what he should wait for, though, and for how long. But before his mother can reply, the older Ricardus wakes up from his dream, not being able to recall his mother's response. Foggy memory is a tough thing to live with, isn't it? Ricardus is still wondering about his mother's appearance in his dream, and the situation was quite relevant to what he's experiencing right now. It would have been great if he could recall what she said, but he's sure that she said something to comfort a scared child, like him. This is when his only brother, Lewin, drops by to meet him. He tells Ricardus about Prince Hakabe's plans to come to Albania, and that they have sent a gift to Elpidio. The other nobles are also quiet, but Lewin doesn't know why his brother has taken an offensive stance for the first time. Ricardus just replies that he wants to do something unpredictable for once, but he looks a little scared about it as well. Lewin mentions Rosalin at this point through his facial expressions and wants to know why Ricardus is protecting her. He only replies by saying that humans become stronger in order to protect something that's precious to him. This is quite sly of the prince to call Rosalin precious like this. On the other hand, Diaz goes to meet Elpidio, who tells him about Ricardus's little gift. It turns out that Ricardus sent him the corpse of a member of the assassination guild he hired, which is something that he's never done before. He is sure that Rosalin had something to do with this reaction, since he's trying to protect her by involving the Golden Garden. He figures that she's important to Ricardus and wants to use this connection as a weakness. Elpidio knows that Diaz is close to Rosalin as well and wants him to be useful to him for once. Diaz is dumbstruck, thinking about how Rosalin makes him so weak and miserable. Calix has received a letter saying that there's a meeting being held at the royal palace in regards to Rosalin's treatment, and it's unanimously decided to give Ricardus full authority. He can't help but be impressed until he finds out that all of the nobles who supported Elpidio have been experiencing some mishaps in their households. This makes him wonder if the rumors about Rosalin being a demonic human and protecting the prince were just a way to strike first, before anyone else had a chance to say something bad about her. Ricardus has given up his defensive stance and started acting like he has no intention of hiding his presence any longer. He wants to let the world know that he's protecting Rosalin, but Calix doesn't know why he's doing all this. Turns out that Ricardus had sent a letter to him specifically as well, which is even more shocking. Later, he tells Rosalin that she is ordered to return to the White Night. She's glad that Calix is going to accompany her to the royal palace as well, but Macaroon doesn't look too excited. It's revealed that Ricardus has written him a letter to propose speaking about Rosalin first, making him wonder what it is that they'll discuss. Cecil wishes her well on her journey, as she knows that trouble follows her everywhere. The siblings go on their way through a rainy night, and Calix notices that Rosalin looks a little unstable since it started raining in the forest. They decide to rest up for the night, and soon Rosalin sits down in a corner, thinking about the sound of rainfall and the darkness of the moon, and that it's the same as the night the real Rosalin was attacked. She finally knows that the person who attacked her is not an outsider, but someone who was in the royal palace. This makes her want to discover the identity of the person and their objective behind wanting to kill Rosalin. Calix is bewildered to hear that the person who killed his sister is inside the palace, but is glad that she's recovering her memories. She tells him that her back was bleeding a lot that night, and she had broken bones, which makes Calix hug her tightly. He really is the best brother in the entire empire, isn't he? The next morning, he's glad to find Rosalin sleeping peacefully, until Macaroon arrives in the form of a handsome man, munching on some apples. Apparently, the man whose body she has taken is someone who drowned in the lake, but it doesn't matter to Calix. He knows that Rosalin is in the most danger at the palace, and he's not sure if the person who tried to kill her is aware that she is a different existence now. They might try to kill her again, but Macaroon promises him that anyone who tries to harm her will not face a pretty death. She's confident, and her threats are believable. Macaroon also informs him that she's the most powerful out of all the existences that possess demonic power. This should be enough to put him at ease. They reach the palace soon, and Rosalin goes in to hug Sir Raymond, who starts to worry about her more than their mother does. Calix does not look happy with him sticking to his sister like this. Calix is taken to Ricardus, while Rosalin goes to her room to change into her uniform. He reaches the prince's office, who looks too cool sitting behind his desk like a boss. The two exchange greetings, and before wasting any more time, Ricardus starts asking about Rosalin. He's impatient, as always. Leticia and Everhart are happy to see Rosalin again, but she just attacks them once again. They have successfully dodged her sword this time, making Rosalin proud of their progress. Well, it would have been nice for them to hear a good morning before getting attacked like this. They are acting normally, which makes Rosalin wonder if they are aware about the rumors of her being a demonic human. At this point, all of the junior knights greet her from the training point, which confuses her. Leticia informs her that everyone knows about her being the savior of the delegation team, and now Rosalin is being considered the goddess of war to the knight. Well, at least they know that she is a demonic human. Meanwhile, Calix informs Ricardus that Rosalin has recovered faster than he had anticipated. Of course, his questions about her appetite seem a bit silly to Calix. Ricardus even asks him about her preference between beef and pork, and even writes down everything that he tells them. This prince is acting a bit strange, making Calix wonder why he's even there. Calix can now see that Ricardus has a small corner in his heart for her, after discussing her likes and dislikes with him for hours. Ricardus doesn't forget to compliment him while they have tea, which makes Calix blush. However, he tells them that Rosalin is being referred to as the incarnation of Creon Tidanian, near the kingdom of Hilasago. It might not be something to worry about, but they should be aware of such rumors. He orders Isirion to put an end to this rumor in front of Calix, making it clear to him that he really does go to great lengths for Rosalin. The reason behind his care is still unknown, however. Ricardus can see that her brother is watching him like a hawk, even though his sister is so careless. He tells him to be on guard, and uses an inappropriate metaphor in the process. He apologizes soon enough and asks him to pick a side. This makes Calix go into deep thought about his father, who has already picked Elpidio's side. However, he's aware that none of them will become his sister's allies. He wants to be with his sister until the end, which is why he kneels down in front of Ricardus, pledging a knight's oath to Ricardus. How will Calix's father react after finding out that his son has pledged himself to the second prince? Will Ricardus realize his true feelings for Rosalin? How is Hakabe going to take possession of Rosalin when he finally arrives at Ilbania? We can't wait to find out more about the never-ending war between the Holy Empire and the Order of the Black Moon. If you're a subscriber with notifications enabled and you've smashed that like button, you'll find out soon enough.